Well, hey everybody. It's another weekly recap of Married at First Sight with your professional lovers in training, Patty and
Al.
And actually, tonight's theme was about trust. And a lot of the different principles that we talk about from our book, Becoming a Professional Lover, end up helping to create trust. But the couples did a lot of talking tonight, trust exercises that Dr. Viviana gave them. And I think our conversation is probably going to focus on 3 couples because Amelia and Bennett and Amani and Woody didn't really provide anything for us to have to talk about other than I love them.
They trust.
Their relationship is very easy. Mm-hmm. And one thing I did say was that if either of those couples decide not to stay together at the end, I'll be mad.
Yeah, that'd be disappointing.
Yeah, because their communication, their interaction,
they're willing to be vulnerable with one another.
It's
easy. A shared relationship.
Yeah. They give themselves a lot of space and they're playful and they don't take everything too seriously, but they take it serious. They're honest and we love them. So we're not really going to talk about them tonight. We are going to talk about the other 3 though. And we'll start off with who the show started off with, who is Karen and Miles. Mm-hmm. Now, they had some great conversation.
Yeah.
I like the way that they communicate as well.
Right. Because Miles is a communicator.
Yes, and that is stereotypically different than a lot of men. Mm-hmm. He is in touch with his emotional side, and he has no problem sharing, which she was a little nervous about because she ain't used to that.
True.
But I said, you do the same thing. Now, you may not initiate it, but you engage
definitely
in emotional conversation.
But again, with you, I mean, we're a couple. I mean, there shouldn't be anything that...
You were like that from the beginning.
Because I knew we were going to be a couple.
No, some of that has got to be in you already. So, I mean, that's cute. But anyway, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. He knows what I'm saying.
But that's something, again, even what's within a person that is part of their fabric, part of their DNA, when it comes down to, the serious side of a person, there's a certain level of vulnerability to express what that is to an individual. So, it's a valuable element of that individual to even allow it to come out. Mm-hmm. So, even though I don't initiate it, it's not something I would do to just about anybody. I mean, I can be communicative, but I'm not going to give you intimate details or, go in depth as to, what makes me me. Mm-hmm. Other than to someone I want to know that.
Yeah, but do you even do that with your friends, your guy friends? Hmm? Yeah. I used to have a little name for him and some of his guy friends. I call them little women because stereotypically, again, and I say stereotypically on purpose because it is a stereotypical perception that women talk a lot. They have to share every little detail. And, now, even though you may not share every little detail, he and his good friends, they can talk too. And so that was kind of a little, my own personal way of saying that you and your friends, y'all talk like women do.
Tell it for the camera. Y'all call me your little woman.
I said that already.
No, you said women.
Okay.
You grouped all of us together.
Yeah, he's my little woman. But that's a good thing. Because a lot of women get annoyed with the fact that their men are not communicative.
Yeah. And see, I don't have an ego. I mean, I'm not worried about what people may think. Even
no,
that
he's
particular...
right. He doesn't have an ego, and that was something I needed.
But even just by saying
a guy
that,
with no ego,
just by saying that, you calling me your little woman, I'm sure there's little... I got my own word, but we're PG. There's individuals out there that would take that in, a way that, they would feel offended because of their egos or their machismo, that they can't be labeled or called something. Why is it that words have that much of an effect on individuals? That I'll never know. I mean, especially when they don't...
I could tell you, but that's a different conversation.
When they don't have value.
But words do have value.
I mean, no, I'm saying, but when words have value. I mean, just like a trust issue. We're talking about trust.
Right. But again, you also know, because it's me, where I'm coming from with that. You know that I'm not using it to belittle you.
But I understand why you're saying that. Right.
And that's the whole key.
Yeah.
Understand.
Some people, regardless of what the reasoning behind it is,
true,
they still don't,
Well, again, that they have, if their own self-confidence is low, or they have insecurities where that would be offensive, then that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with insecurities.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with, self-esteem issues. Yeah. And usually the people who have the biggest egos and need it stroked all the time are people who are insecure.
True.
Which you are not one of. So, but anyway, back to Karen and Miles.
Right.
Now, one question he had was, what would be a pet name that you would call me? And he rattled off several, but she was like, well, I'm not really a pet name kind of person. And it prompted me to look at one of the tips in our book. And it's directed toward a family, but it starts with the couple. And it says, week number 45 says, create family traditions to celebrate special occasions. But I was also thinking about how couples can create little traditions between them, words or phrases or names that they only use for each other, that help to create a bond between the two of them that they don't have with anybody else.
True.
And that's where the whole pet names come in. That, to be able to, call you hun, which is what the word that we use for each other. My parents use sweet sweetheart. When we sign our cards, well, he started signing cards with a capital M-E, me, and then I sign my cards with a little M-E, me. And just all those little things are ways to connect you intimately that other people don't know and will not know, because it's just for you and me.
Right. And
that's the whole idea behind the pet name. So hopefully Karen will continue to loosen up a little bit and understand that these are just different tools for creating intimacy.
Yeah, just to, share who you are. And that's, I think, what she has difficulty in doing, probably because she hasn't had a lot of practice in doing so.
Yeah. Or she's been really, 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 really hurt.
Yeah. And that's unfortunate. I mean, I think she's a nice, genuine person, but I think she's losing out on having someone who literally would probably give her the world, or find a way to give her the world.
And he does seem like he would.
Yeah.
Now, the other conversation they had, that you and I had side conversation during the show, when Dr. Viviana was talking to them about the sexual conversation. And trust and sex seems to be the theme of the evening.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how talking about sex is awkward for a lot of people, especially if you're talking about sex from a personal point of view. But even talking about sex in a general way is uncomfortable for a lot of people, especially if you're in public. Now, they're on TV, they're, have cameras in their face, and I get that. But one thing that Dr. Viviana suggested that I just kind of had a little issue with was, taking
sex off
intercourse off the table, but allowing each other the freedom to explore other sensual activity, behavior, so that you're building physical intimacy without the pressure of sex intercourse. So, and setting what she called sensual boundaries.
Did she say that?
She did. She did. She said sensual boundaries. Now, the problem I had with that is
it's like revving up an engine and going nowhere.
Yeah, and it's only when you haven't had it, or you haven't had sexual intercourse consistently, then that is usually a need that's not being met. And because it's a physical need, as well as an emotional need, on the physical side, if we're engaging in activity that's turning that physical need up, and then it doesn't get filled, that's like
hitting that glass ceiling.
Yeah, that's maddening.
Yeah.
Really, that to me, that's emotionally maddening.
And can potentially be painful.
And so, as a guy, and we know that sexual expression, again, on the average, is different for men and women. So for him to already be holding himself back, miles that is.
That would be difficult to...
I just don't see that really working.
Yeah.
Like Dr. Viviana.
Not in the way she was...
Should.
Yeah. Not in the way she was offering it up.
If that was getting filled, then that's different. Yeah. Because
then you're filling in the gaps. And
and that physical desire for that part of intimacy is not as strong because it's being met. So I can engage in, kissing, extra type of kissing, or stroking, or whatever the case may be, and not feel like I'm just being revved up for a letdown.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
And I think of a variety of different things, but I became conscious as we started talking about it more, so that to engage in anything, especially when that is like the desired goal. Not that that's like the ultimate goal, but to share intimacy or closeness with your spouse. I mean, that is basically the pinnacle of it. And to do everything, or well, maybe not even everything, but whatever you do, it's building up to that. I mean, that's... I don't know.
It's a tricky situation.
Yeah.
And I think this is the first season that I can remember that more couples than not have not had sex by this point in time, by halfway in.
By this, yeah.
3 out of the 5. Supposedly, because now we've seen seasons where they were lying.
Yeah, true.
And then the truth came out later. But, supposedly right now, 3 out of the 5 have not been sexually intimate, which I find interesting. But anyway, at least Karen and Miles are talking about it.
Yeah.
The other two aren't really even talking about it. Which moves us to Olivia and Brett.
They're talking at each other.
Yeah. Now, Olivia and Brett, I don't know. Olivia seemed extra nitpicky tonight. But they showcase what happens when you don't have good communication skills or high emotional intelligence. Brett, and this is my opinion, Brett and Christina do not display high emotional intelligence. And what do we mean by emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is a person's ability to connect to other people emotionally, where you can sense a person's emotional need, or you can sense where they are emotionally. You know when to empathize,
right.
You know when to affirm, you know when to support, you know when to hold back, you know when to push. Yeah, that's all of those things deal with or are part of emotional intelligence. And Brett and Christina are very low. And what do we mean by that? Well, Olivia, in asking, and she does ask questions, and she does tell how she feels. But so when she was asking about expressing her concern about him being genuine, whether he's being genuine or whether he's just playing to the camera, she was searching, wanting him to say,
but don't premise it
something.
But don't premise it with should we discuss it, should we hash it out, or should we just
that was toward the end. I'm talking about when they were like at some kind of outdoor restaurant or something, when they first, after Dr. Viviana's visit,
right,
when she was first talking about the fact that he talked about her smile. When she gives a certain kind of smile, and he loves that. And she was like questioning, if we were laying down last night without cameras talking, why wouldn't you just say that to me?
He was asked a question. Well, maybe if you would have asked the question, what is it that you find interesting or pleasing about me?
And I was saying that he could have, in the discussion, said something like, what would make you feel like I'm being genuine? What would I need to do to make you feel secure about
what I'm telling you?
Yeah, being genuine or not, or something like that, right? Because we've seen that with the other couples, right? Even with Carrie and Miles, what can I do? What would that look like to you? But Brett had no clue about
how to approach that situation.
Exactly. And his thing is, if that's your perception, how can I change it? I can't change that. If that's how you feel, if that's how you feel. Yeah, but you
have a part to play in that. If a person's feeling a certain way, their perception is making them feel that way. What is it that they perceive about what they see in you to make them feel that way? If you're really that concerned about them, you'll find out what it is that you're looking at that makes you feel a certain way. So maybe I can explain to you what that is that you're seeing, and it may not necessarily be what you think it is, but it is genuinely me.
And then the other problem she has, of course, is that Brett plays a lot, as in he's very sarcastic, and he's always, got little glib statements that he makes.
And she doesn't roll with anything.
She
doesn't roll at all.
She comes across as very unemotionally available. And so she takes that as him not being serious.
Yeah. And everything, and again, there's a time for sarcasm, there's a time to not be. But just because a person may make light of a situation doesn't necessarily mean that they don't take it seriously.
Right.
Maybe that's their way of just being able to discuss it. just to talk about it, you know. But at least you got to be willing to hear and, you know, not just come up with your own assumptions all the time.
And then she said something about...
You wrote down a lot on them.
I did, because they gave us a lot to talk about tonight. But when they were outside of the bar, after they had their little fun activity, and then she starts getting back into it again. And one thing I said was, girlfriend does not understand timing.
Yeah.
Okay, they have just had a fun activity. Why go back into that and kind of ruin the mood by wanting to rehash it? And she talked about it being unresolved, right? And needing to go to Pastor Cal.
Yeah.
And she said, I think we should go to Pastor Cal. And so he says, okay, well, if that's what you want. And she says, well, no, we both need to want it. And I'm like, no. He doesn't have to want to go.
He already agreed to it.
He agreed to go because that's what you want. And it made me, pulling out the book again. Week 18 says, oneness in harmony, not sameness, holds a marriage together.
Exactly.
She comes across as needing the two of them to be the same mind, the same feeling, in the same place. Everything is the same. No, hun, you're not trying to be the same. He said, I will go because that's what you want.
Really?
And that means that I'll participate because that's what you feel like
we need.
You need and what we need.
Yeah.
You feel like we need
I'm willing to participate.
I'm saying I don't have a problem, but I will do it.
Yeah. Sometimes
that's all you need to take.
Really? I mean, if he's there, maybe he'll get something out of it. Maybe he'll get what you want him to get out
exactly. of it. Hopefully he will see where he's not contributing positively to the communication. But to say, well, no, we both have to want it.
No,
that's,
you don't.
No, you don't. You don't have to both want it.
He basically, by him willing to go, is him wanting you to feel better.
The only thing you both need to want is to make it work.
That's it. And he's putting in an effort to try to make it work.
Yes, he is.
No, you're putting in an effort, or she was putting in an effort to make it the same. Make it
well, and it just made her very nitpicky. Like she was just trying to find things wrong.
And she eventually will.
And
she eventually will.
Yeah. That will. I mean, yes, Britt has some shortcomings. But she doesn't make it easy for either of them. And talking about not making it easy, let's go to the other couple. Who doesn't make it easy? Christina and Henry. Wow. I was really disappointed. It's like they take 2 steps forward and then one or the other pushes them back 10 steps.
Yeah.
Tonight it was Christina.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to slug her. And here's why. We're talking about a lack of emotional intelligence. Dr. Viviana's visit, they have some breakthroughs. You know, they understand what Henry understands what his faults are. And Henry, really, you said he's infantile in his emotional...
Not immature, but he's infantile. He hasn't... It's like an unused muscle. If you haven't used it before, it's going to be painful just to try to use it.
Yeah.
And this is a situation that he's never found himself in before.
Right.
You know, so, and it's not to say that he hasn't had a relationship or anything like that.
And he stated, but he says they haven't been serious.
Right.
And he hasn't done it a lot. Well, if you haven't done it a lot, then you're not used to what goes into the process of getting to know somebody.
The nuances of relating to a person. And I mean, he's not a relator. I mean, he's not a communicator anyway.
Right.
But he is a genuinely giving person. So you really have to get to know him for him to open up to you. And if he has any feelings for you, he will show that in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And
after Dr. Viviana's visit, and they were doing the trust exercises and questions, she asked him, what was the question about insecurities or something that he feels insecure about or something like that.
Yeah, and he explained basically his childhood, being a much heavier person than he is now. You look at him and he's average size. But evidently, growing up, he was a very heavy individual. And as a young kid, that can generate insecurities with you and your youth.
Because you know how you were when you were young. You know how we were when we were young.
All of us.
When you ragging on people and teasing and bullying and saying mean things that you think are funny. And so he experienced a lot of that. And at the very beginning, we also talked about how his dad is very critical of him, which I think also plays into his lack of confidence. But he opened up.
Right.
He became vulnerable in that period of trust with Christina. And then when she got a question about deal breaker, what did she do? She threw his insecurity right back at him. Oh, a deal breaker for me is confidence. Didn't he just say that one of his insecurities is self-confidence?
Yeah.
And you say that your deal breaker is confidence? Okay. So talk about lack of emotional intelligence. So what does that say to Henry? It either says,
oh, this is a broken deal.
Yeah, so why am I here?
Really?
Why should I even put any effort into this when you just told me that my lack of self-confidence is a deal breaker for you?
Not my lack of confidence. I am a deal breaker for you because this is me, who you see, who you are dealing with, who is trying to make strides to make this thing go. And we've talked about it. We've gone through 4 weeks of, you dealing with how I am and me trying to express to you that I'm working through it and still sticking with it and trying to let you know in whatever way I can that I'm in it to make it work.
Yeah. And then you use it against me.
Yeah.
Which shows that Christina, one of her insecurities, is this need to be taken charge of.
Yeah, well,
now she has said many times, I'm used to men taking the lead and taking charge. And she told Dr. Viviana that she needs Henry to be assertive. But Dr. Viviana asked, well, are you giving him those hints? And you said she doesn't know how to be subtle.
Oh, right.
What does that mean?
Right.
What do you mean by that?
Well, just be available, touch, get close, rub, whatever. I mean, make him feel as if you're in this attempt with him.
Not just sitting back saying, okay, I'm just going to wait
on you
for you to do everything. And
again, if this is an infantile, if this is a baby muscle, he doesn't know what to do. And it's not to say just because you're 30-something that you're supposed to be, experienced. Everybody's not experienced. I mean, everybody doesn't go through all of the same things the same way. And again, as a relationship, where would it be as difficult for someone who may have a certain level of confidence to be able to express a openness or an availability or a willingness to accept a response? If I touch you, will you touch me back? And again, a touch, just, a brush. I mean, women, especially women, know exactly how to use the tools of their existence to get the attraction of a man. And okay, the physical attraction, yes, you're a picture on the wall. Now that you breathe, eat, and you live, you want to be given attention. So what do? You wink, you give a look, you give a smile, you give a smirk, you, like I said, you brush against, or you lean over, or whatever the case. Y'all got so many tactics I don't even know. So
y'all got tactics too.
Yeah, we do.
But I hear what you're saying, and she's giving none.
None.
At least
none.
On camera, she's giving none.
Well, yeah.
You know, again, we don't know what's happening when the cameras are off, but she gives none. And
I mean, even during the interview with Dr. being there, he moved in closer. He actually put his hand on her knee. I mean,
no reaction to me.
None.
There was no. Now, she may have reacted in her face like, ooh, but her body language did not change.
Yeah.
With that. And that says a lot too.
I mean, even in that instance, she could have just put her hand
on top of his hand. Exactly.
Now, we didn't rehearse that. That's just how we think together.
Yeah. So she's complaining about him giving her nothing, but she's not giving him anything either. And let me say that as a couple, again, remember that you're bringing individual history, growing up, environments, all of that together. And you're not going to both be strong in all areas. Yeah. One person's going to be more romantic than the other. And so it will fall to the one who is more romantic to kind of come up with those kind of ideas.
Yeah, but that's what you do. Then do it.
Now, but again, you know, you can help the other learn how to develop those things that they are not strong in or take initiative in.
Yeah, because what's one-sided doesn't have to remain one-sided.
Exactly. But usually it will remain unbalanced. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you're not going after full total balance. Okay? You're bringing 100, he's bringing 100, or vice versa. But in the strengths and weaknesses, you're propping each other up.
You confuse me with that 100 or vice versa.
As in, I said, you're bringing 100, he is. But then for the person, she is. Stay with me here.
I'm with you.
Okay. So, you know, and everything is not going to be perfectly balanced. But that's okay. Because that's what the give and take is.
Exactly.
And that's how the give and take becomes one complete unit. Is that you're each filling in gaps for the other.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I was really disappointed with Christina's response. And, you know, again, one of our